The Building Brands podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of industry leaders who have successfully built a brand. Join me, Robert Royer, president of Building Brands Marketing, and an entrepreneur who has successfully scaled multiple brands as we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights that have shaped the success of industry leaders and provide you with the resources you need to do the same. Building Brands Marketing is a full-service marketing agency specializing in crafting customized marketing strategies for service-based businesses with a creative powerhouse to drive real results. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. Welcome to the Legal Leaders series of the Building Brands Podcast. Today, I'm excited to welcome Deborah Whitson, owner and attorney with Whitson Law. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just start with, just a simple kind of introduction. What sparked you from moving from your criminal prosecution background to launching Whitson Law?
Well, true disclosure, I politicized myself out of a career in prosecution. I ran unsuccessfully to be the district attorney in the county where I resided. And everything happens for a reason, as they say, and it launched me into the direction of private practice. And I was drawn immediately to family law. That seemed most aligned with my experience as a criminal prosecutor, which was focused mainly on special victims prosecution, so working with victims of domestic and sexual violence. So family law seemed to, have a lot of overlap with the people I would be working with and the subjects I would be dealing with and encountering. So that was in 2006, I made that switch.
So 2006, you're 2 decades in at this point. You've scaled to multiple offices, I believe 5 offices, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so what, success over that time frame stands out to you?
Wow. So there's a couple of things. One is, when I started my first office in the community where I have been living now for 35 years, which is a small rural mountain community, because I was kind of high profile as an assistant DA who did a lot of trial work and newsworthy cases and things. I was able to lean into the reputation I had already built thanks to free press as a public servant. But what's really, I'm still pinching myself about is now 5 offices later and venturing into parts of the state of New York where I didn't have the security and comfort of name or brand recognition out of the gate, and still being able to reach an audience that resonates with what we at Whitson Law Firm and my sister company, Mediated Online Solutions, offer in terms of our unique boutique approach to how we work with our family law clients and on their family law matters.
Yeah, that's interesting. And this is quite common for the firms that, leverage that personal brand at the beginning days to influence the corporate brand. So tell us a little bit more about your sister firm and kind of how that came to fruition.
Great. I'd love to share that story. So maybe we all wanted to forget the early days of the pandemic when things were drastically changing and people didn't know what was going to happen next or where this might lead us. And I had an existing base of family law clients, and a lot of them parents who were struggling with co-parenting issues in general. And then a global pandemic has us all kind of locked down in our houses, and kids were sent home from school. And parents were really grappling with not seeing eye to eye always on whether kids who had temperatures or sniffles or whatever should go back and forth from mom's house to dad's house, etc., or in what ways they could adjust their custody and parenting plan on their own without, court intervention or where there were existing court orders in place. And with no easy access or quick access to courts to help them navigate through those uncertain times and, really unforeseen landscape for co-parents, I was getting a lot of phone calls like, what can I do? I'm not seeing eye to eye with my co-parent, and how can I get unstuck because I don't want to send the kids, but they're demanding I send the kids, for instance. So mediation was a perfect modality, and mediating by Zoom or video conferencing or even telephone mediations was a natural pivot. So I saw an opportunity there, and I saw an opportunity that was larger than New York State. So my license to practice law and my law firm operates only in New York. But mediators, as long as you have sort of the universally accepted mediation training and credentials, you can mediate in almost any jurisdiction in any country. So my mediator certificates and training far exceeded the minimum of any state. So I thought, well, I can reach a boundless audience. I'm not bound by the geography of New York's borders to reach out and say, hey, co-parents or couples or whatever they might need help with. If you're having challenges and you don't have access to courts to help you resolve those disputes or differences, try mediation. And I'm here. I have the background, the training, the experience. So it's been it served a really useful purpose in that critical time in the early pandemic years, but it's been a great breakthrough for normalizing the use of mediation in an area where upstate New York is really not mainstream. It's not New York City where, trends happen before the rest of the world knows they're about to happen. Upstate New York is about 15 years behind in any trend in the state. So it really brought upstate New York into sort of more modern thinking about non-adversarial ways to approach your family law issues. And that's been a great joy for me because I'm a big proponent of people not throwing gasoline on a fire, especially if there are children in the mix of a breakup.
Yeah, I like that. I love the horizontal revenue structure and also widening kind of the target audience pool to be able to reach another niche, another demographic.
Mm-hmm.
I, one of the things I find fascinating about you and your experience over the past 2 decades is pushing into multiple markets where you just were, essentially the firm was completely unknown previously. And I'm curious, outside of just the lack of personal recognition
Mm-hmm.
from your personal branding efforts there regionally, what are some of the other largest challenges that you faced in pushing into new markets?
Yeah, so it was all new for me. And because I had been relying, when I first hung out my shingle at my first office location, I was relying on name and brand recognition, so to speak. I didn't, as a business owner, have to think about or learn marketing. So as I looked to expansion, and then when I developed the mediation company in the throes of the pandemic, and I wanted to reach a wider office, I had to get smart on marketing and branding. And so I consulted people who knew more about these things than I did. I'm just a small town lawyer. So I surrounded myself with experts in marketing, branding, revamped websites, built a new website for the mediation company, and started to learn about things like SEO and boosted Facebook and Instagram posts and setting up a YouTube channel. And I hired myself a professional video company, and we started making marketing videos. So the very first marketing videos have me in 2020, so 5 years ago, with different hair color and different hairstyle. So you see some of my marketing videos out there. They go back to learning how to reach a wider office and get my message out there in a much bigger, more thoughtful, concentrated kind of way, as opposed to just hoping people would refer me.
Definitely. I I know that you have several personnel internally that are part of your marketing team, correct? Like in-house employees?
Yeah, so I didn't at that time. So I was, initially relying on outside vendors, but I right now have graduated. So I have an internal director of marketing and sales who's full time in my organization, and a full time marketing assistant. And we still use vendors, to specialize in things we don't have the in house skill for. So we supplement. So I have SEO experts and Google pay per click experts and things like that. Um, So yeah, it's a mix
Yeah.
of in-house and outsourced efforts.
How do you determine which resources to bring in-house and which resources to use externally with contractors and so on and so forth?
Yeah. So um, it all comes down to um, knowing your numbers and being able to measure things. So, initially when I wasn't as schooled in the smart way to market, I thought, okay, just a pretty website or putting some stuff out in the universe was going to help. But, if you can't measure it, you can't know if you're getting any return on your effort or investment. And especially when you start putting money behind things, you better know that you're getting results that are measurable. So we get really granular on that, and we analyze each channel that we're in and our return on every investment in whether we're paying per click or we're boosting an ad or we're developing a professional video that we're going to pay to have seen in certain places. We make sure that we can measure that specific effort and see if it's producing the results we anticipated and if it's profitable. So where we have the talent to do things in-house and paying that talent to do that in-house makes a good ROI. That's great. Where there's a very specialized talent that maybe we don't have enough work for a person full-time or even part-time regularly with that skill or knowledge base, but we can contract with an outfit who does have a skill or knowledge base that we don't have in-house. And so we're devoting our financial resources into the personnel that resources that make sense. So if it makes sense to have full-time employee on staff and all the overhead that goes on with that, but you have more control over your own staff versus sourcing out the projects or the skills that are harder to find or more expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've spoke with a lot of firms, that are around your size, and there's also this belief, and I'm a big believer in your marketing. What you say and how you say is more important than where you say it, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So identifying those key benefits, those key value points, and then finding a way to incorporate those into your brand messaging appropriately that drives attention, interest, and desire. And I think that a lot of times having that resource that monitors and implements what to say internally with
Mm-hmm.
firms your size is really appropriate. And then they can better coordinate with those external partners by knowing what everything needs to say, the story that needs to be told, the brand messaging points. And then you can bring in some of those subject matter experts who might be, an SEO expert or a social ads expert, really
Mm-hmm.
strong with audience targeting and analytics analysis. But I think that it's always important to have that internal resource, even if it's somebody with a smaller firm that's wearing multiple hats,
Mm-hmm.
who can really monitor that and ensure that everything aligns with the brand tone and voice.
Yeah, somewhere along this learning journey while I was growing the firm, rapidly in the years since 2020 and the pandemic, I came across Donald Miller. And I remember in the early part of the pandemic, a lot of people were putting resources out there for free. Come to my free 2-hour course on how to story brand was
Mm-hmm.
something like that I saw from Donald Miller. I don't know if you know or you have read any of his works, but he has a book called Story Brand. And so story brand marketing materials hit my inbox and I bit, in large part because I say this, like, literally there's not a day that goes by that I'm talking to a potential client or a client where I say, I'm a skilled and paid storyteller. I'm here to tell your story. If you're going off to court, I want the judge to hear your story in the most persuasive, compelling way. And I want him or her to hear it early
I
and
like that.
often and at the end before they're going to make a decision. So we're in there, recency and privacy. So story branding really resonated with me. And my now marketing director was really like a virtual assistant to me in those years, the early part of the pandemic. We did the story branding course together because at the same time we were building out the website for mediated online solutions and deciding what our brand messaging was going to be there and refining the messaging with the law firm. And so it was perfect dovetailing. And I just like the idea of, figuring out your story brand. What is the story that you can tell quickly in a compelling way that's going to stick with your audience and say, hey, that's somebody that I want to reach out to if I have a need for the services that they're offering. Um, so that was just, I think there were a number of things as I have been really growing these two businesses that seemed serendipitous. And that was definitely one, the story brand experience.
Yeah, I love that. It's so often it's overlooked in law firm marketing because law firm marketing people get so stuck on the where to say it component. Hey, you need to be working on your SEO and Google Ads. You need to be looking at traditional media opportunities and so on and so forth. And I mean, you could have all the media mix in the world, but if you don't have a compelling story, and I love that you've actually pulled that over to the other side of the desk to like implement into your service in the way that you deliver a service for your clients as well, and think about it that way, because I mean that's really well put when you put it like that. Uh, so moving forward, I'm curious, if you've obviously 2 decades in business, scaled across multiple locations. You've launched another firm. You've, I'm sure, hit your fair share of challenges and obstacles. If there was one marketing obstacle that you could remove overnight, what would it be, Deborah?
I wasted a lot of money on the first iterations of the website. So the first website, prototype that was done was the Scales of Justice and Lady Justice, and I literally wanted to vomit. I was like, "That is so not me. Like that is so rote and trite and unimaginative." So I was really annoyed at that. But I didn't know the other more important things that go into a website. Aesthetically, I knew that I wanted a certain look and feel, and that's what I was focusing on. And I missed a lot of key elements. So when I finally got a good SEO person, and they were like, "Your websites suck for SEO." They're nice colors and your themes and everything are pretty to look at, but you just wasted a bunch of money on that. So lesson learned, but all those things can be righted, right? We didn't have to create a whole new brand color or feel, but we had to get behind the, under the hood of the engine, so to speak, and redo the website completely from the ground up. And that's made a huge difference. Immediately we started seeing more improvement in our ranking. So
That's incredible. Is there any, in terms of today, as it relates to your SEO strategy, is there any component of that strategy that's connected to AEO and trying to language learning models, trying to leverage language learning models for AI search?
yes, yeah, and we're as like everybody who's trying to stay up with the developments in AI, and we're learning like how can you now rank on Chat GPT when people are going to Chat GPT and saying whatever they're looking for in a lawyer or a law firm, and hopefully you'll come up. So now we're starting to try to get an understanding and get in that game as well, and that's beyond my pay grade. Like I said, I'm just a small town lawyer. That all is a whole different universe, and I leave it to the people who know what they're doing in that arena. But we are incorporating AI into our daily law firm operations in ethical and responsible ways. So, in terms of streamlining workflows and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So, what does the future look like? What is the next, in 5 years in a perfect world? Uh, how do things look for you business wise, Deborah?
Well, we have our sights set to reach most corners of New York State. So now we're Albany up to Canada. We want to go west next, out to Buffalo. There's a big stretch of small cities along that route if you head from Albany to Buffalo on the New York State Thruway. Um, I'm toying with the idea of branching into another state. My husband and I bought a second home so we can escape winter a little bit. It's winter 8 months of the year where my law firms are. We bought a home in Savannah, Georgia, and I've discovered that I can wave into the bar in Georgia because I've been a lawyer for 31 years in New York, and that's good enough for Savannah, Georgia, I guess. So who knows? Maybe there'll be Whitson Law Firm and Mediated Online Solutions operating in Georgia as well. So
Very
I'm
neat.
having fun with the growth and just it really excites me to reach more people who um, resonate with the with our services and our approach. We see litigation as the last stop on trying to resolve your family law legal issues, and it should almost never be your first stop. Um, and so we're really trying to steer people into that kind of thinking and that sort of approach. And I think it's so much healthier for individuals and families, even if they're not going to be an intact family. Kids
Hmm.
fare better when their parents aren't in warfare. So I feel really good about reaching as many people as possible to try to steer them away from that knee jerk path of hire the pit bull law firm or lawyer and they're going to go off and file the scorched earth pleading and set the stage for the war right out of the gate. And um, once you do that, it's hard to turn that around in a better direction.
Definitely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, this has been a productive conversation. I've really enjoyed this. Tell our listeners and viewers, Deborah, where could they learn more about your two firms online?
Oh, awesome. Thank you. So, whitsonlawfirm.com is the newly revamped website for the law firm, and mediatedonlinesolutions.com for the mediation company. Both of them have a lot of free resources that people can access, short videos, downloadable guides, and even my book, Divorce Like a Pro, A Better Way to Break Up, is available for free download as a PDF on both of those websites, or they could read about Whitson Law Firm's unique approach to divorce by getting Divorce Like a Pro on Amazon if you prefer a functional e-reader version or old-fashioned paper book.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Deborah. Appreciate you being on the show today. Thanks again.
Oh, Robert, thank you. This has been an honor. I really enjoyed our conversation.